Welcome to JAPEC Community Life section. This is the Justice section. Right now I'm standing with who?
Ed Meyer.
Ed Myers. We're glad to have you today. Now, I noticed in the meeting on Friday you had some things that you actually couldn't get all out because, of course, 5 minutes, we still need to hear the rest of the public. I'd like to hear what you had to read in its entirety, and then we're going to ask some questions about it.
Thank you, Anthony. Unfortunately, I didn't have time because I was interrupted by Mike Rasnick, who sits on the City Council. He didn't think what I had to say applied, but I did feel that what I did have to say very much connected to the attempted dismissal of Redmond Jones from council. So I'd like to read you my comments in its entirety. I'm not leaving anything out. Is that okay, sir?
That's fine with me.
Okay, so I'd like to present that, and this way people will understand where I stand, also my candidates stand, regarding what I did right. So anyway, Anthony, here we go. To the people
just look
at
right
home,
on camera and they're ready.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to address you. People from all the communities of Groveland, I feel this is very important for you to know. But no matter what, these are my opinions, and they're basically just opinions. Justice comes when people make final decisions. So as far as the justice system is concerned, at this time, justice, I don't think, has prevailed. So I'm going to read you this document.
And this is your opinion, correct?
This is my opinion.
Thank you. All right. Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, you are aware for the last 2.5 years I have attended council meetings and have considered most of your decisions to be fair ones. Tonight, unfortunately, I can't agree with your recommendation to terminate City Manager Redmond Jones. I have outlined through my research using actual public records to present my opinion, using documents and my opinion of course, to you and to the council why Mr. Jones should not be terminated. Number one, most important, the last time this type of proceeding was brought before council, council had agreed to meet with Mr. Jones to acquire expectations of what should be included in his job performance. To my knowledge, this never happened, now putting the blame on you, council, for non-performance. Number two, now some history regarding an ethnic complaint, number 15-098, filed by Glenn C. Wilson, regarding Redmond Jones, was received by the Commission on April 16, 2015. I have extracted a portion of Mr. Wilson's complaint, the exact verbiage from the document read. The basis of my ethnic complaint is that in his zeal to make sure that the Hunts do not pay any fees at all, it is my belief that the city manager, Redmond Jones, has violated Florida Statute 112.313, paragraph 6. This refers to the misuse of public position. Mr. Jones filed a letter on July 6, 2015 to the Ethnic Commission investigator containing a paragraph titled Background with the Complaint, Wilson. Now I give you the exact extract from Mr. Jones' letter saying, in a meeting with both Mr. Wilson and Miss Wilson in early 2014, the couple attempted to persuade me, the city manager, to accept a pre-negotiated contract between the City of Groveland and Alpha Inspections, the city's building official. I refused to view the contract, citing to Miss Wilson's concerns ranging from a sitting elected official being part of the contract negotiations that would eventually end in a policy vote of decision. Additionally to Mr. Wilson, I cited concerns that conflicts of interest could be in play if he had a financial relationship with Alpha Inspections. In either case, I pushed the contract back across the table and ended the conversation on that topic. Since that moment, it has consistently been an adversarial relationship with both Wilsons, especially with Mr. Wilson, who had been as bold as to attempt alpha inspection negotiations that involved a contract that was potentially valued at over $1 million annually. The letter goes on to say, similarly, personal and professional attacks continued from Mr. Wilson in his attempt to belittle my background and title in previous employment. The results of the commission outcome, dated October 28, 2015, of the case is as follows. The commission found no probable cause to believe Redmond Jones, Groveland City Manager, misused his position to establish an economic incentive package for a company and to attempt to secure lower building inspection fees from public officials and others for the company that were otherwise available to other companies that applied for the city building permits. Now, in my opinion, we learned from this discovery Mr. Jones had been harassed, belittled for some time by Glenn Wilson, with endless needs and a quest to eventually try to terminate him. Mr. Wilson has written on my Trilogy blog, predicting and hoping for the termination will happen. My opinion continues. After scanning through hundreds of pages of documents, we see a pattern of demands and sometimes downright insulting that Mr. Wilson is inflicting on Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones's performance to do his daily work appears to be put on hold for the entire city to answer Mr. Wilson's never-ending, complex, and demanding needs. I understand Mr. Wilson has a First Amendment rights to question anything, but it appears he abuses his First Amendment rights and privileges, pounding Mr. Jones, the mayor, and others, trying to get them to run the city his way from what I read. Tonight we may worry about a credit card charge that was apparently paid back by the police chief, but taxpayers, we should be concerned about much bigger things. Our city attorney must put in many hours of research many of Glenn Wilson's demands of concerns, costing us, the taxpayers, slowing down the overall city productivity of our city manager and staff. In an excerpt responding to Mr. Wilson dated 4/22/2015 regarding a records request, City Clerk Teresa Begley, she says the following to Mr. Wilson. There were thousands of email results which I read individually with no success. In an email excerpt dated 2/4/2016, Mr. Wilson makes a record request from the city clerk requesting the following. I am making a public records request for the PST file for City Manager Redmond Jones that contains all his sent, received, drafted, archived, and detailed email from January 6, 2014 up to including the current date. What message does this tell you, Mr. Mayor, and Council, and citizens? It tells us consistent hours of labor by the Mayor, City Manager, staff, lawyers, for less than 1% of the entire city for one person's needs and demands. Now we're going to conclude with our final page, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for hanging in there with me. Again, Council must institute plans for Mr. Jones' scope of required work they had set out to do, apparently was never done, Mr. Anthony. This is a violation of the Mayor and the Council not executing what they promised to do regarding his performance standards. I have only scratched the surface of the details I could present why Mr. Jones should not be terminated, and the one person who is on a witch hunt seems directly responsible to terminate him and preventing this city to operate effectively. Mr. Mayor and Council, tonight you are dealing with a contract that must be upheld to its agreements. Any move that you make this evening to possibly terminate him tonight opens up the possibility of a lawsuit by Mr. Jones. As a taxpayer, I urge all of you, not to vote to terminate him, as you leave the door open to many repercussions. I truly believe, in my opinion, what I read, the Orlando Sentinel informer Sam Smith is in this very room. A person who abuses the taxpayers by suing us in federal court. A man now has the nerve to run for mayor of the city and seeks revenge on Redmond Jones to terminate him. Ladies and gentlemen, could it be? In my opinion, Sam Smith is Glenn Wilson. Or not. You decide. Thank you, Mr. Anthony.
Well, I appreciate you saying that was something that you couldn't finish the other day at the meeting. And of course, as always, we do deal with the person who's been accused and the person who has been the accuser, and then of course we fact check. The statements that you read right there, I will be looking into them to find out, and hopefully soon we'll find out whether or not he is or isn't, but we can't say at this time.
That's correct.
So the best thing for us to do, as always, this is your opinion.
Yes, sir.
And we believe that the people still have say-so over where they live at, and we want to make sure that people have that, and that's why we're creating the things we're doing with JAPEC Community Life magazine. We hope that others will come forward and have interviews and voice their opinion, because your opinion does matter in whatever's going on out here today. Now, of course, you've been in this, let's say, Groveland, how many years now?
Going close to 3 years, sir.
Okay, 3 years.
Yes.
And I guess you've dealt with the government since you moved here.
Yes, I've been very involved for the last 2.5 to 3 years. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
With their meetings, if there's any way we'd be able to improve their meetings, what would you do to improve the meetings? Because we understand what you said here. Now tell me, what would you do that could improve the meeting? You feel it needs to be more transparency, because we're all working on that.
Yes.
But tell me what you feel about that. How can we improve the City Hall meetings?
One of the biggest problems, Mr. Anthony, that we face is Mr. Justice. That's it. Mr. Justice, I'm sorry. One of the biggest problems we face, Mr. Justice, is that attendance is extremely low. And if anything, the last two meetings, or not the last two, but a meeting before, maybe prior to this, I addressed council of the need of promoting people to come to the meetings. I really think, you know, in the mailouts with the water bill once a month, they should say there's 2 meetings coming up. Maybe there's not enough press there. But I also said to the council that I think it's also important that we have a sign outside City Hall that's illuminated, that can be changed, so people know that meetings are coming up.
On what days and everything else.
Right. And especially the night of a meeting, it could scroll by as they pass by. Meeting tonight, very important. Some maybe 1 or 2 agenda items, what they'll be discussing, to get the people out, because unfortunately it is the same people that you might say are have influence on the council, because they're the same people that go.
But here's the thing, and this goes with the United States and around the world. If you're not getting involved, if you're not showing up,
right,
how can you blame the same people?
That's correct.
There really isn't a blame. That's just the way it is. So my suggestion is, and this is what I'm going to say to you, and of course I'll talk to the mayor or the new mayor coming in, transparency. Allow us as the press to be able to interview after that, so people can see it, and then if they can come out, they see it, and if they can't, they can view it wherever.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And then also a link, like you say, on the water bills. They can have Tuesday night's meeting or Monday night meeting, and then if you can't make it, show them you care. They can always go to JAPEC Community Life magazine and find it.
right.
So these are things. You have a great thing that you read. It comes from your heart and it's your opinion. But we also need to get voices out there on the road. So that would be the campaign, and this is the reason why I'm starting doing what I'm doing. We got to get transparency and push this thing through. So we do appreciate you reading it. Hopefully you will inspire others to come forward and be able to talk about what they couldn't get in 5 minutes, so that we can close this thing out. And here's the thing, we want to shut down 7 days after a meeting, so the next meeting is all fresh on those issues. But at least people got a feeling of what's going on in the city, and it only can happen if people like you and other people get involved to help push these magazines and help push mine straight through the top. So what we want to do is, now, on the meeting, I understand you run it, and hopefully I can talk to Mr. George Rosario about how he would have handled the meeting. You are his campaign manager.
That's correct, sir. Yes.
So, if you are his campaign manager, and I'm sure you have dealt in politics before, how would you have actually handled that meeting?
Well, the way I would have handled the meeting is quite simple, and I could sum it up.
That's if you was mayor.
If I was mayor.
Okay.
I'd read his contract first. I'd consult with my attorney, the legalities of the contract, and I would consult where I can go from there. That's the first 2 steps. The next step I would take is...
And you know that has to be done openly.
It has to be done open.
So you just made an announcement
I would have,
at a city hall meeting?
I probably would have just made an announcement. Unfortunately, we were here to discuss a termination issue. But I know if it was me or my candidate, we would like written documentation of the charges being presented to the individual before any action would be taken.
Okay.
And as you well know, you were there for the entire meeting. I know you shot everything on video, and you covered the story quite well as far as I know. They didn't really allow Redmond to have that opportunity to present his side of the case. I noticed he was being shut down quite a bit by the mayor, and that's unfortunate. I have a lot of respect for Mayor Laux, and I still do. I'm going to make that very clear, that I still could talk to him, give him my opinion. My bottom line opinion is nothing should have happened that evening. No action should have been taken. His car shouldn't have been taken away. His cards shouldn't have been, his credit, whatever. It's like admitting that the man was guilty with no charges.
Okay.
That's my take, and that's the way I would. So I wouldn't have proceeded the way he did.
Now let me ask you this.
Yes, sir.
This is the 4th time.
This is the 4th time.
Okay. So I think the 3rd time they said they would get with him in 60 days and write down something or something like that.
Well, if you recall in the beginning of my speech, I'll rephrase this paragraph, which I think is most important, and I say the last time this type of proceeding was brought before council, council had agreed to meet with Mr. Jones to outline expectations of what should be included in his job performance.
Okay.
To my knowledge, this was never happened. Now putting the blame on the mayor, of course, but it says you, which because I was addressing the mayor, and council for non-performance.
Okay.
So they never, to my knowledge, they never completed what they promised to do with Mr. Jones.
So let me ask you also, of course, you know the forum is coming up today. We're going to be talking about all the issues that went on that day.
Yes, sir.
In your opinion as a citizen,
Right.
what would you look for in a meeting? Of course, that went 4 or 5 hours.
5 hours.
Subjects. And some of y'all meetings have went longer than that. So what can we do?
I haven't been to one that long. But 3 hours, going 3 and a half.
There was one meeting on a Monday that went for a long time because I didn't get home till like 12 something. So what I would like to know is, at what point did you see that happened the other night, even though it was, and you know we'll cover this later, what changes do you think should be made? You saw the police video. We're going to get into that. In fact, we're going to close this down. Welcome to our forum. We'll be getting back with the forum in a little bit. But let me ask you, you seen the police video?
No, I didn't.
You haven't seen the police video?
I haven't had time to watch it.
Okay, well, we will be looking at that sometime soon, and then we're going to get that. If you have anybody else that want to come forward, please feel free to call them. Get in touch with JAPEC Community Life, and we'd be more than happy to speak with you. You have any closing words?
No, I just want to thank you, Mr. Justice, for having concern for me not be able to finish my statements, and I'm sure that's your job to get out there and see people like me that want to have their voices heard. And I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Because personally, I think everybody seems to care about Groveland in their own special way.
That's right.
So whether you like their opinion or you don't like their opinion, it's the fact they're still trying to do something. At least that's better than nothing. I don't know.
There is something I'd like to say in my closing statement, which you might say I've been harassed on my Trilogy blog by Mr. Wilson by making statements, I'm moving, I don't care about Groveland. Well, that isn't true. I care about who will take over this position as mayor that will do the best job and be out there for the people, making things a lot better than they have been, because unfortunately the amount of turmoil we've been going through is really sad.
Now let me ask you this. If they find out, in your opinion, this is opinion now, if they find out that Mr. Jones, the chief, is found not guilty, should there be a public apology?
Absolutely.
Okay, now I'm going to ask you this question too. You feel that there should be a public apology. Now, if in my fact checking, I find out that Mr. Wilson and Sam Smith aren't the same person, should there be a public apology for that?
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's hold to that, because I am going to be doing some research to locate and do as much as I can to locate who is Mr. Smith that's causing these issues. But in a way, he has enlightened us on a lot of things that we didn't know was going on.
Possibly.
So we have to look at it on all sides.
That's correct.
But I feel like being fair, if we find out he is, then you can have your say so. If he isn't, then I think we accused him, or whoever accused him, need to be publicly and show honor and say, I'm sorry.
That's right.
Okay, and that's the thing that we have to do, start trying to find out all information, be transparent.
And people have to learn how to apologize when they're wrong.
Yeah. So, same thing, we'll take it. Well, look, appreciate it. Get back with us today. We'll try to get more information, and hopefully we can get more testimonies. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.
Thank you.